Okay, class, I'm going to show you the steps in starting your Shepherd Fairy poster. Now, I decided I was going to do mine on historical person, and that is Leonardo da Vinci. So what I did is I found a photo, showed you this before, a drawing of Leonardo da Vinci, and I did just like the Obama poster. I brought that photo into Illustrator and did a color separation, and I assigned these colors. So my poster is gonna have this color scheme. So what I did right now is I placed this in here. This was a JPEG that I did on another sheet. I went File, Place, and I brought this in here and placed it in here, okay? Now, what I did also is I started bringing other things in here. This is a drawing that Leonardo da Vinci did of a huge horse that was later made into a sculpture, and I think it'd be cool to include possibly this drawing, possibly this horse. Here's Leonardo's signature. I found that online. Here is these are a little fleur-de-lis. It's a little pattern, and I found out that Florence, Italy, where Leonardo worked, had this little coat of arms which had a red lily on a white background. So what I did was I made this into a pattern, and you can feel things in. So how would I do that? I'll just show you really quick. First, what you need to have is you need to have Illustrator and you need to have Photoshop open at the same time. So down here, you can see in the bottom of my screen, I have Photoshop open and I have Illustrator. So I go into Photoshop, and here was that design. So what I did is I cropped it down and there was a border on it. I got rid of it so it just looks like this, okay? And it's called the coat of arms from Florence, Italy, okay? Now I'm gonna go into Illustrator and I'm gonna place that coat of arms in there. So I'm gonna go File, Place. Now, one thing about Illustrator is since you're gonna get so many things on your screen at one time, it's probably a really good idea to have multiple layers. So I'm gonna go to my layers box over here and I'm gonna go down to this area and I'm gonna add another layer. I had a little plus sign, I add another layer. So up there I've got a layer. Now on that layer, okay, I'm gonna rename that so it's not confusing, and I'm just gonna call this Patterns. And that's where my pattern design is gonna be, okay? So on that layer, I'm gonna click on that layer, I'm gonna put a lock on this layer temporarily, and I'm gonna click on that layer, and I'm gonna go File, Place, and I'm gonna find that thing. And by the way, all of my stuff I put in a folder, and I put it under Pictures, okay? And I call it Da Vinci folder. And if you look here, under Pictures in my folder now, I've gathered a lot of images, and this is what you should be doing or have already done. So if you look at some of these, up here I've got a picture of a horse, an invention, his signature, a metal horse, a fleur-de-lis, some drawings, the Mona Lisa, some writings, some more writings. I've got all kinds of information and things that I could possibly put in my poster. Now, will I put all those things in my poster? Probably not, but I've got a lot of possibilities here, okay? So I get that fleur-de-lis. Let's go back now. So here's my coat of arms fleur-de-lis, and I'm gonna place that in there. So I go File, Place, and there it is, okay? Now, since I've got so much stuff here, it's getting confusing. So I'm gonna make this bottom layer invisible temporarily. So I click it. So here's my fleur-de-lis that I just brought in here, my little thing. And I'm gonna zoom in a little so you can see it a little bit better. Okay? Now, once it's in here, you can do an image trace like you did before. So I'm gonna go Object, up here, let's zoom out a little bit. I'm gonna go Object, okay? Down here, Image Trace, and I'm gonna go Make. Okay, remember that? So it turns it temporarily black and white. Then I go over here to Properties, and I go to Default, and I'm gonna change this to 3 colors, because I only want 3 colors in it, that's it. Okay, now, the 3 colors, there's a black line. If I zoom in really close here, you'll be able to see that there is a black line and then a white background, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change this fleur-de-lis into a pattern. Now let me show you how to do that. I'm gonna click on that with my general selection tool right here, and then I'm just gonna go Edit Copy, Edit Paste, and I'm gonna get another copy. It's gonna take a second because it's a rather complex drawing, and I'm gonna take this and put it right here. So I've got a copy right there. I'm gonna use my arrows and maybe scoot it over so it lines up perfectly with the other one. If you wanna make sure it lines up perfectly, you can do this. If I go up here where it says View, you can go to Rulers. Rulers are, where are they? View. I can't find them. Show ruler. Now, is it off the page? Okay, rulers right here. So rulers, show rulers, okay? That gives me a little ruler on the side of my page up here. Okay, what I'm gonna do is grab that ruler and just bring it down, and what it does is it brings a little blue line down. It's hard to see. All that is a guideline. So when I'm lining my things up, I can line them up on that guideline, okay? Now I'm gonna do another one. I'm gonna go, now once I got two of them, I'm gonna select both of them, and I'm gonna go edit, copy, edit, paste. So it's gonna take a second because this is a pretty complex design, okay? And, it's still working right now. There it is. And here's my other design. So now I got two more. Okay. Now you might say they're running off the page, and I'll just zoom out a little bit and you can see I've got four that are right next to each other right now. And I'm gonna go up and line those up on the blue line, about right there. Okay. So now I've got four of those. Now it depends on how many you wanna go with, but right now I'm gonna go with four more. I'm gonna grab these four and go edit copy. Edit paste. And it's gonna take a second because it's a pretty complex design. If it was like just polka dots, you'd be able to copy it much quicker. And it'll show up, and I'm gonna get four more of those. It's still doing its work here. There it is. Now I take those four and I put them here. Okay, I'm gonna bump them over a little bit. And what I'm getting here now is I'm getting a pattern. So now, watch this. This is pretty slick. I'm going to grab this pattern with my general selection tool, all 8 of them. And I'm gonna go to swatches over here, and I'm gonna drag those 8 up here into swatches. And when you see the line around swatches light up, that means it's in there. And I'm gonna let go. Now what I did now, these are all the colors that you can choose, but I added this pattern to one of my colors. And you might say, what does that mean? Well, let me show you. If I take a shape, let's just take a shape maker here, and let's say I take a circle, and I put a circle right there. Now right now my circle is black, but if I go to my swatches, and let's say I click on here, I can make it green or blue or purple or pink or whatever. I can make it any color I want, but I can also click on the pattern that I just made and watch what happens. I fill in that circle with that shape, okay? So it's a great way to make cool patterns, fill in little areas of little shapes, okay? So let's go back to my original stuff. I'm gonna go back to my layers, and I'm gonna make my original layer visible again. Now I've got these patterns. So let's just say, I'm gonna just get rid of this temporarily right now. And let's say when I start arranging my picture, I decide, okay, I really want Leonardo da Vinci. I want one main subject, and that's gonna be Leonardo da Vinci. I want him to really dominate the picture here. So I'm gonna grab that picture, and I'm gonna make him, I gotta unlock it up here. I'm gonna grab that picture and make him really large. So I'm gonna bring him up here, and I really want him to dominate that picture. Now, I don't just want him to look just like Obama, so I don't like this background with the different colors here. So what I could do, couple things. If I went to my original picture, I can make changes on it. So let's say I go to Photoshop, and here's, I'm gonna go open up the purple red Da Vinci. That's the one now. That's the one I brought in. Now on the purple red Da Vinci, I decide I don't want this yellow area to be here, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take my magic wand, my magic eraser, which is the third one underneath here, and I'm gonna erase this area right there. I got rid of it, okay? And I'm gonna get rid of this area here, okay? Now, I'm gonna go to the background, and I'm gonna erase the background, and you're gonna get these checkers. The checkers means there's nothing there, okay? Now I'm gonna go File, and I'm gonna go Save As. Now when I go Save As, I'll save on my computer. I'll put it in the same place. It's still called DaVinci Purple Red, and I'm going to go save. Oh, no, cancel. I'm going to forget that. It already has a name. It's DaVinci Purple Red. I'm going to go File, Save. That'll save the changes that I just did. In other words, that'll get rid of my background. Now watch. When I go to Illustrator, you're going to see this little thing that popped up here. It says, some files are missing or modified in the links panel. Would you like to update them now? It's talking about this DaVinci. So what I'm going to say is yes. Watch what happens to that DaVinci. The background disappeared. Okay? Because I made the change in my original Photoshop document and saved it, the picture that I brought into Illustrator now is changed as well. So that's why you keep both of them open. Okay? So like if I want to make changes to this horse, I want to delete some areas, I can go back into Photoshop, make changes to the horse and hit save. It'll automatically save them here. Now you can see some of the things that I could do with this. Okay? I'm going to go back to the other layer right now. I'm going to lock that layer, go back to my patterns layer, and I'm going to grab these patterns. And watch how I can grab the patterns here. Oop, let's do this. Let's just grab these patterns for right. I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's take the patterns and let's make this, let's lock that and make it invisible for now. Those patterns are gone, okay? And I'm gonna go back to my bottom layer where DaVinci's on, and I'm gonna take Leonardo da Vinci and click him and go Object, Lock Selection. He's temporarily locked. Now I can't accidentally grab him. Now I'm going to grab, let's grab this pattern. Let's just move it because I don't want it there. I'm going to put it someplace else. I'm going to put it off the page here someplace. And I'm going to put a background behind DaVinci. So watch once again. I'm going to take my rectangle tool. I'm going to set it on top of DaVinci. Like so. And notice that rectangle is filled in with that pattern because previously I chose that pattern. Now I right click, go Arrange, Send to Back. Now that pattern is behind DaVinci. So you see how we're going to do this? We're going to be bringing multiple images into here, overlapping them, placing them, putting them in different areas, and so on. So my horse, I made the horse purple in Photoshop and brought him in here because I thought he'd look better. I'm going to make that horse much smaller, and perhaps I want to flip him the other way. Maybe I want to go this way with the horse, okay? And I'm going to use him someplace in there. I'm going to put his signature someplace. I'm going to put that horse in here. I'm going to go File, Place, and I'm going to place a quote in here, okay? Or I'm going to place another photo in here. Here is the Mona Lisa. There she is. And I'm going to place her in here and put a border around her, put her behind something. So that's what you're starting to do with your poster. You're starting to put these collage of images, but the images have to fit together. Okay? In other words, you can't all of a sudden have a million colors in here. So I might make her purple, or maybe I'll just make her in variations of red. Or maybe I'll take her and see if I can make a vector version of her. So I'll do this, and I'll go Object, Image Trace, and I'll go Make. She'll be black and white at first. Maybe you like the way that looks. You just want to change it to one color. Or maybe you want to go to Default. I'll go to Properties, and I'll go to Default, and I'll change her to 6 colors. And you're going to see what happens here. It takes a minute because she's a pretty complicated picture. She's got a lot of pixels in there that the computer has to read and convert into just 6 different values. There we go. Now, obviously, I can do the same thing I did with Obama. I could change her darkest value into the purple and so on, and do that kind of stuff with my picture. So that's the beginning of how we're going to start putting your poster together. I want to emphasize once again, you're going to use Photoshop and you're going to use Illustrator simultaneously. You're also going to get a big file. So if you go to Photoshop, you're going to get a big file of images, and you can see all of the images that I have here, and I put them in a folder called Pictures, DaVinci folder, and I have all things to consider, okay? As well as I'm going to actually go into Illustrator later. I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to go into Illustrator, and I'm actually going to add some quotes and lettering by choosing my type tool like we did before. Okay, so let's get started on your poster, and that's how we're going to begin with it. Now, I have Da Vinci as my main subject, but your main subject may be a rocket. Your main subject may be a tank. Your main subject may be a landscape. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily have to be this a portrait. I'm going to do a portrait because I want it to be about him. Okay? Any questions? Hopefully we can answer.